Hey, I'm Joe. Today, we're looking at some bullshit in Louisiana. Last week, I stumbled upon an article at alternet.org that left me thinking, what the fuck? 8th grader arrested, threatened with beatings, and held for 6 days in jail for throwing Skittles. So we have a boy who allegedly threw Skittles or similar type candy at someone on the bus ride home. The following day, as the boy was taking a social studies test, a police officer assigned to the school handcuffed him, dragged him out of class, and arrested him. He was charged with interference with an educational facility and battery. As the officer led the handcuffed teenager out of the school, both students and faculty heard him threaten to beat the fuck out of the boy or to have his son, who is about the same age, do it for him. The student, who is African American, spent 6 days in a juvenile detention facility before seeing a judge whose first comment was, am I to get this right? Are we really here about Skittles? 6 days in a juvenile detention facility before seeing a judge. Now, this isn't uncommon in Jefferson Parish, Louisiana. African Americans make up just 46% of the district's student population, but comprised 76% of the 453 school arrests during the 2010-2011 school year. What were they arrested for? Bullshit. Like carrying a cell phone, not adhering to dress code, swearing, and now throwing rainbows. Now, I did some digging and found some pretty depressing things about Louisiana. As if all the humidity, mosquitoes, and that goofy flag isn't depressing enough. I mean, seriously, is this a mother pelican feeding blood to babies? Now, Louisiana has the second highest poverty rate in the nation. Second only to Mississippi, right next door. Louisiana ranks 6th on adults with obesity and has had the highest incarceration rate for the 16th consecutive year, according to this report by the Department of Justice in 2013, making Louisiana the nation's prison capital. Their incarceration rate is nearly 5 times Iran's, 13 times China's, and 20 times Germany's. 1 in 86 adult Louisianans is doing time, nearly double the national average. Among black men from New Orleans, 1 in 14 is behind bars. 1 in 7 is either in prison, on parole, or on probation. Of course, this is because of the for-profit prison industry in Louisiana, reported to be worth $182 million. Fueled in a large part by big national prison operators like Corrections Corporation of America, who is one of the largest prison profiteers in the nation, operating 67 prisons with the capacity of nearly 100,000 beds. And to make matters worse, in Louisiana, we have the most crazy plot twist you could possibly imagine. The local sheriffs own and profit from several incarceration facilities throughout rural Louisiana. In the early 1990s, when the incarceration rate was half of what it is now, Louisiana was at a crossroads. Under a federal court order to reduce overcrowding, the state had 2 choices: lock up fewer people or build more prisons. It achieved the latter, not with new state prisons, there was no money for that, but by encouraging sheriffs to foot the construction bills in return for future profits. The financial incentives were so sweet and the correction jobs so sought after that new prisons sprouted up all over rural Louisiana. So instead of focusing on crime reduction strategies, the sheriffs all pitched in on this new business venture to create more beds for criminals and more cash for the sheriffs if the beds are kept full. Richard Crane, former general counsel for the Louisiana Department of Corrections, is quoted saying, "If the sheriffs hadn't built those extra spaces, we'd either have to go to the legislature and say, give us more money, or we'd have to reduce the sentences, make it easier to get parole and commutation, and get rid of people who shouldn't be here." Yeah, he actually said that out loud Get rid of people who shouldn't be in the prisons. Can't have that. That would eat in the profits. Now, each inmate is worth about $10,000 a year in state money. So you have to keep the penalty stiff so the facilities can maintain profitable quotas and more cash for the sheriffs. And in Corrections Corporation of America's case, high incarceration rates increase profit margins and make their stockholders very happy. 53% of Louisiana's 42,000 prison population is currently serving time at these sheriff prisons, where in order to maximize profits, no money is wasted on silly rehabilitation programs, while the violent criminals serving time in state-run prisons are learning trade skills and getting undergraduate degrees. The non-violent prisoners in the sheriff-run prisons get squat, because if the sheriff prisons wasted money on rehabilitating the criminals, they would reduce the number of their repeat customers. You gotta keep those beds full, just like a hotel. In Louisiana, this all comes down to a lack of education and a shitload of poverty. Louisiana is one of the few states that has historic high poverty rates. Aristotle once said, "Poverty is the parent of crime," and according to a Swedish study, teenagers who had grown up in families whose earnings were among the bottom fifth were 7 times more likely to be convicted of violent crimes and twice as likely to be convicted of drug offenses. And what breeds poverty is poor education. Student performance in Louisiana is very weak. The state ranks among the lowest in the nation. 4th graders stand a full 16 percentage points below the national average of 42%. For post-secondary and workforce readiness, Louisiana was graded a failing grade preparing its students for college and careers. Only 5 students out of 100 pass an AP exam, the second lowest figure in the nation. Fuck! The only thing Louisiana did right was collecting the data for some more of that government money. Louisiana earns a good grade collecting and reporting high-quality education data. The Pelican State provides funding for a longitudinal data system and is expanding the capacity for stakeholders to use that data. Did you catch that? Instead of spending money on improving education, they spent money on collecting the details of their shitty education system. So, Louisiana, you've had your priorities backwards. In the 90s, you had a chance for reform, but squandered it so a select few can make a huge profit. For the crime, that's a direct result from long-term poverty and a lack of opportunity. And keeping the incarceration rate high for the prison profiteers is only getting worse. Corrections Corporation of America has been acquiring firms that operate halfway houses and various community correction facilities. That's right, a monopoly on criminals. CEO Damian Heminger announced, "Re-entry programs and reducing recidivism are 100% aligned with our business model." Yeah, a business model of repeat customers and high crime rates to fuel the profit-making prison industrial complex. And where in Louisiana, the sheriffs personally profit from putting as many people in jail as possible. So there it is, episode 49. Our last episode on the U.S. not being founded as a Christian nation brought in some interesting characters. Starting with Saxter, who was really confused. This is a troll video, right? Judeo-Christian values are what built the very principles of our justice system, pushed the ideas that ended the majority of slavery worldwide. No. Judeo-Christian values are not what built our legal system because there's no death penalty for having sex with another man's wife. Oh, and pro tip, the Bible supports slavery. Aaron Kasparov didn't like it either. Hey Joe, you don't understand the Hobby Lobby decision. Businesses shouldn't be forced to pay for their employees' birth control. You believe that they don't? That's institutionalized bigotry? Really, Joe? Actually, Aaron, it's you who don't get it. Prior to creating the controversy, Hobby Lobby's health insurance covered both Plan B and Ella, which are emergency contraceptive pills. You know, what they sued the government to be excluded from in Obamacare coverage. At least Polly Moosetrap liked it. Great episode as always. I don't like talking about religion and politics though. The whole subject makes me want to burn the earth. Polly goes on to talk about some bullshit in Canada, where the government is trying to classify boycotting Israel as a hate crime. Now we're keeping an eye on that one. And finally, we got this gem. In response to episode 45 about stupidity, we got us some stupidity. DLJC 1979 said, boycott this Soros-funded leftist propaganda channel. Boycott it or suck devil cock. It's that simple. All leftists love the taste of wet salt. Great retort to an episode about people embracing stupid. Thanks for proving my point. And would I be standing in this shitty space if I was funded by a billionaire? No. So, what's today's total?
10.
Well, this time we'll be taking your suggestions for the charity I give $100 to once that total reaches 100. Now, if you find a story that's bullshit worthy, use hashtag NLBS when posting to any social media site. And if you're really motivated, make me a video. If we like it, we'll feature you on our next segment. Of course, you can email me anytime at joe@nextlevelbullshit.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and watch all our shows on nextlevelbullshit.com. Be sure to check out thenlbs.spreadshirt.com to get shirts and other cool swag. We'll see you soon with another pile of bullshit. Until then, we got another open carry lunatic wandering around an airport with an AR-15 with a huge drum magazine. This time, the crazy busy Atlanta airport. And making a stink about being harassed by the police after following the police to make sure he was being harassed. Yeah, Jim Cooley claimed to be shocked at the reaction. These kinds of stunts are exactly what's going to cause a public demand to roll back open carry laws. In fact, there's already lawmakers using this as an example to do just that. Way to go, Jim.